A wildfire start in Wyoming forces evacuations of a popular state park. This while Missoula is left picking up the pieces after a massive windstorm rolls through the city. Plus, the heat is on high.
I feel like kids may not be as hard up for serotonin when it's hot because they're always active, but me, I'm like, I don't want to be outside.
As temperatures rise, so do mental health concerns. We'll explain. And tough times for a Wyoming animal shelter.
The population gets too high that we're unable to manage it.
We'll take you to Park County as an employee shortage and a lot of animals to care for is a cause for concern. The MTN 430 News starts right now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Russ Reisinger. Another quick-moving wildfire sparks on the Wyoming-Montana border, forcing the mandatory evacuation of a popular state park. The Tongue River Reservoir is under an evacuation order as the Badger Creek fire burns to the south of that park. The state park says all campers have been asked to leave the park and others are being asked to avoid that area. The Badger fire is in Sheridan County but moving towards the park. The park has estimated that 80 to 90% of the campsites were full at the time. This is the second time this month a wildfire has threatened the recreation area. In early July, the Dead Man fire north of the reservoir forced a voluntary evacuation, but that fire has since been contained. A massive storm delivers a knockout punch to western Montana. Upwards of 100-mile-per-hour straight-line winds in and around Missoula, down hundreds of trees, toppled many power lines, tore apart signs, even caused around 10,000 residences to lose their power. That storm even prompting Missoula police to make a plea for drivers to stay home due to stoplights being out. The storm rolled through the city and Bitterroot Valley last night right around 10 o'clock, leaving severe damage in its wake. Northwestern Energy is working around the clock to restore power, but as of now, thousands remain in the dark. We're also hearing from the University of Montana that it was hit hard by that storm. And there are more storms already spreading our way that will only enhance already dangerous wildfire conditions. With the very latest on that, here's Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
Here's our latest satellite radar mix. You can see the clouds and the showers that moved through the Billings area earlier. We got a few sprinkles around Billings, showers elsewhere, but now thunderstorms coming along the cold front in behind this. So temperatures began to pop once we got a little sunshine in the Billings area. We're watching for the possibility of some strong to severe storms, especially north of Roundup up into north central and northeastern Montana throughout the evening. But that wave will likely move through, and Billings to the south could certainly be looking at some at least gusty winds around some of the thunderstorms. Most of them so far have been about wind and some small hail in a few cases. But check out temperatures 90s to triple digits, more records set into the eastern plains this afternoon. More on the weather coming up.
Well, we all know this triple-digit heat can affect our physical health, with heat stroke a very real concern. But now new research is adding to that evidence that heat can even impact our mental health. Arlena Howder has more details.
If you've ever stepped outside in heat like this and felt irritability, stress, and even fatigue, you're not alone. Excessive heat like this can take a toll on one's mental health.
Go, Lily, go! You can do it!
Little Lily Asbill might not have noticed how hot it was at Pioneer Park.
She's the queen now.
But her mom, Jenna, sure did.
It makes you irritated and very irritable, and it feels like everything's kind of closing in.
Damon Wojciechowski noticed as he was practicing yoga in the park.
It can make me irritable. The heat, yes, definitely can make me a little curt, I would say, when I'm talking to my boss.
Everyone has their own uncomfortable reaction, and there's a reason for that.
None of us are used to sitting in temperature of 106 degrees.
Dr. Eric Arzubi with Frontier Psychiatry in Billings says it's all about the 3 S's: stress, serotonin, and sleep.
Excessive heat can actually cause a stress response in our bodies.
In high temperatures, the brain realizes something's wrong and produces cortisol, the body's stress hormone, and adrenaline.
People might feel extra anxious or worried, irritable, angry, and people who already have mental health problems will actually sometimes have their symptoms get worse.
Excessive heat also messes with serotonin levels in the brain.
And that also causes, variabilities in mood and anxiety. It's not you. It's the environment that's dialing up the stress, and this will pass.
Limiting your time in the sun and maximizing your time in places that have air conditioning and other people will help, like the library or even a grocery store.
You brought it with you?
Jenna and Damon have their own tricks to beat the heat.
Exercise helps with your serotonin too.
Take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Maybe do that like 3 times. That right there does a nice little reset for me.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
A day after meeting with congressional leaders, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is visiting with President Biden and Vice President Harris at the White House today. He's trying to ensure America remains committed to helping Israel in its war against Hamas. However, his stop in the U.S. is not without controversy, as many Americans object to how he's carried out that war. Skylar Henry joins us with the latest.
Pro-Palestinian protesters outside the White House held up an effigy of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, showing him with blood on his hands.
Right now, right behind us, President Biden is having a meeting. He's having a meeting with a war criminal.
Netanyahu arrived for his first face-to-face talks with President Biden since the October 7th attack and war in Gaza.
And I look forward to discussing with you today and working with you in the months ahead on the great issues before us.
Netanyahu and Biden are discussing the outline of a deal that would pause the fighting and see Hamas release Israeli hostages.
There are gaps that remain, and our team continues to work with our counterparts in the region to see if we can't close those gaps.
The two men also met with family members of American citizens still being held hostage in Gaza. With President Biden's time in the White House nearing an end, Prime Minister Netanyahu is covering his bases, meeting with the Republican presidential nominee and the likely Democratic nominee. Vice President Harris was not on hand for Netanyahu's address to Congress Wednesday, but she returned from the campaign trail Thursday to meet with him.
She's been a full partner in our policies in the Middle East, particularly with our policies towards Israel and the war in Gaza.
Former President Trump said Israel should wrap up the war quickly because of the bad publicity.
Got to get this done fast because the world is not taking lightly to it. It's really incredible. October 7th would have never happened if I was president.
Netanyahu is going to Mar-a-Lago on Friday for a meeting with Trump. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Democrats still have a lot of work ahead of them in the wake of Joe Biden's stunning announcement not to run for re-election. The heavy favorite to be on top of the ticket is now Vice President Kamala Harris. But as Joe St. George reports, that process is easier said than done.
The Democratic National Convention Rules Committee has outlined its process to officially replace President Joe Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket here in 2024. One thing is clear from top Democrats. They want this process done quickly and well ahead of the Democrats' convention in Chicago in mid-August. On Wednesday, Democrats held a rules committee outlining the process to replace President Biden. Party officials are giving any would-be presidential candidate until Saturday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time to declare their candidacy. To be eligible to receive votes, a candidate must then, by July 30th, submit signatures from at least 300 delegates, with no more than 50 coming from a single state. If Vice President Harris is the only qualifying candidate, an official virtual vote by the delegates could take place as soon as August 1st. Democratic leaders have said they would like the entire process wrapped up by August 7th to meet any state ballot deadlines or concerns. That means Vice President Harris won't have a ton of time to deliberate on a running mate. Some of the leading contenders include the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina, and even Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg is considered to be a contender. Of course, it's always possible Harris picks someone not on any list. In many ways, what the Democratic Party is attempting to do is unprecedented in modern American political history, launching a completely revamped ticket with a little more than 100 days until Election Day. And remember, it's no longer just Election Day in this country. It's really voting season. Some states begin the early voting process in late September. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Former President Donald Trump will soon make a campaign stop in Wyoming. Trump is scheduled to attend a fundraiser in Jackson Hole on August 10th, his second visit to the Cowboy State in the last 2 years. That event is invite only, and the exact venue will not be announced to the public. According to the invitation, entry to that fundraiser will cost $5,000 a person, and photos with the former president will cost $3,500 per photo. U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman is also scheduled to appear at that event. The Park County, Wyoming animal shelter in Cody is desperate for donations. The shelter recently laid off more than half of its workforce, leaving a skeleton crew to take care of dozens of homeless animals. Penny Preston visited the shelter to find out how they're making do.
It's all hands on deck every morning, cleaning cages, feeding and caring for almost 60 cats and 5 dogs. It's below capacity, but this place can fill in a heartbeat with animals that have nowhere else to go. There used to be enough humans to carry the load here, but
our board of directors had to make a difficult decision to eliminate 5 positions to maintain a balanced budget. I am working with 3 full-time staff members.
The shelter's executive director is also cat apartment cleaner now, while another staff member hoses down the dog enclosures. The pups outside greeting the camera. One dog here had been isolated in a basement, still getting used to any human presence. This is a no-kill shelter, and they sponsor a catch, spay, and release program for cats.
So they're not able to go and populate with kittens, and then those kittens end up in the shelter.
Harris says the shelter has gotten creative with fundraising, hosting birthday parties that allow children to pet the animals and make toys for them. But there is a limit with their limited income.
We have to turn away our intakes if the population gets too high that we're unable to manage it.
This new shelter was built with community funding 4 years ago. Harris thinks the people of Park County will step up again.
I am encouraging people to do monthly donations.
Harris says that can provide the sustainability the shelter needs for the long term.
That's what I'm looking for, is sustainability, so we don't have to face this type of critical funding in the future.
The monthly donations can be arranged online through the shelter website or through your local bank online bill pay service. From Cody, Penny Preston reporting for MTN News.